So let me tell you a story about relationships. Relationships have a beginning, a middle, and an end. If we're lucky, that end is a very long end. It's the middle where we get in trouble. The beginning of a relationship is really quite beautiful. It's the romantic stage of a relationship. At this point, we are imagining some wonderful things about each other. To understand where that imagining comes from, let's go right back to our childhood. We get lots of our needs met in our childhood, but there are some needs that aren't completely well met. We might emerge from our childhood with a sense of concern about whether or not we're good enough or whether or not we're lovable. When we start a relationship, unconsciously, we're looking for that in our partners. Whatever that missing thing is, whatever that unfinished need is, so that incomplete need. In fact, we're biologically hardwired for this. We have these things that come off the sweat of our skin called pheromones. If you could see them, we'd look like Pigpen walking around in a cloud of dust. And every person's pheromones are unique. They're like fingerprints. And we also have pheromone receptor sites located in our nostrils. And it's not the same thing as scent. It just happens to be a good place to scoop up air. And what happens is these pheromone receptor sites, when we're young, they're dormant. But once we reach adolescence, they become active, and they're waiting for a signal. So let's say that my need, my incomplete need, that I'm unconsciously still trying to get met, is to believe that I'm intelligent enough or I'm smart enough. And then I go on a date, and the person that I'm dating the next day or right after says, "Wow, it's amazing, Steve, you know, what you shared with me about the stars last night. How did you learn all that?" So unconsciously, I'm very excited to hear that, because suddenly I believe that this person recognizes my intelligence. So that need becomes met. And at that moment, a signal goes down and it activates this little receptor site to capture, scoop up and capture one of her pheromones. And it molds itself around it. It's like a lock and key. Now nobody else's pheromones are going to fit but hers. And now whenever I'm around her, there's a little impulse that's going to go up into the limbic part of my brain and flood my brain with dopamine. And dopamine is the feel-good drug. So this is how we biologically fall in love with one another. It's actually hardwired into us. I will feel euphoric around this person probably for a year or two. Why does this happen? It's true for all animals. We're no different. The reason is because Mother Nature wants us to mate for long enough that we are likely to have a child who's brought into the world healthy and safe. And it's more likely to happen if two of us are together. So we get this wonderful start to any relationship that usually lasts for a year or two. And it's a euphoric feeling. And it's wonderful. The problem is, Mother Nature doesn't care if we mate for life. Suddenly the pheromone effect wears off. The spell is broken. And we start noticing all the differences that for the first year we didn't pay any attention to. One day I wake up and I say, "Well, maybe I'd like to do this today." And my partner says, "Well, I'd rather do this." And I look at her and I say, "I thought you were here to help me get my needs met." And I'm shocked. And this is where the relationship changes. So all of a sudden, all these conflicts need to be resolved. And the wound that I had, that I initially thought was disappearing because of this relationship, because of that fantasy, the wound comes back. Suddenly, I feel not smart enough. Suddenly, I feel not lovable enough. And the mistake that I start to make is I blame my partner for it. I forget that I used to feel that way before we even got together. So this is how a relationship changes from a real euphoric, beautiful, fantasy-based honeymoon into a very challenging, conflicted struggle. And every relationship will go through this. First, I tried to fantasize that my partner was going to take my wound away. And in the second stage of the relationship, I blamed my partner for the wound. It didn't work either way. The answer, you may have guessed, is to heal the wound myself. If it's helpful, you can consider couples counseling. In couples counseling, we help clients change language to non-blaming language. We help clients, we help the couples that we're working with learn how to express their needs in a vulnerable way so that they can be better heard and understood. So the real gift of a relationship is an opportunity to heal. That the conflicts that exist in a relationship are actually beneficial for us, as difficult as they may be at times. Try to remember at all times that your partner is not the monster that you sometimes make them out to be. I know that many times you love your partner dearly, but there's those moments. And when you find yourself in one of those moments, try to remember it's just the old wound that's returned.